Alright, so this is going to be a while, and it's probably going to be a mess, but today we're going to be looking at applying sound and animations in PowerPoint. I'll give you the real basics, but everything you need to do to get through it. So that being said, I'll go ahead and get started. So we're actually going to start off here at the From Trebuchets to Broadsides website. That's going to be our kind of best bet to ping off of, and you see all this happy stuff. We're here in 1.2. We've got option number 2 here. None of this matters. Literally none of this. Here's what you need to do. You've got 3 little bars. These are your steps here. You got 3 little or 9 little dots up in this corner. You can click on that. It's going to bring you to your apps. You need to find the cloud. You need to find this this OneDrive thing. And that's going to be our key. But for right now, what we're going to do is we're going to get into the PowerPoint. So if you have the PowerPoint opened up, you can click on this, and everything is stored into that OneDrive. So this is our PowerPoint version of OneDrive. This is going to allow us to kind of go back and forth. Now if we click on this, it'll bring up the PowerPoint that we have in our app. You might have to make this from scratch, but I already have one going, so I'm just showing you how to do that from here. Now the key here is you need to be able to share this. So before we even open this in Desktop app, you want to come over to the share, and if you're working with somebody, you click on the share. It's going to bring up a bunch of names, and we want to say people in the school district of Pittsburgh can edit. You can just let them see it, or you can call out specific people. But we're going to X out of that, and the other way that we can actually get people over here is we can invite them. So if you click a name, and we're going to call, let's go Charmello Andrews. She could edit this document, and if I just click send right there, it'll send her a link, and she would be able to edit this with me in real time, kind of like Google Docs did. The other thing I do is I can copy a link, and anybody with this link can then edit. So this actually works if I put this link into the chat in Teams, but I copy this guy out, and I can, paste it to a link in Teams. So if I click over here, we'll just take a look at what that looks like, and that would be the link that anybody with this link is now able to go and edit that document. So careful with that one, but that's how you get somebody else to it. So if you're going to be doing things on animation slides or sound slides in PowerPoint, what you need to do is you need to open it in the Desktop app. You really don't have the tools, the resources to do this built in on the browser, and it's probably going to tell me something like I already have this document open. So if this comes up, you can say yes, open PowerPoint. You can say always open PowerPoint, and like I said, it'll bring that up, and now we are in here. So here's a couple of key features. First off, look up in the corner to make sure the auto save is on. This is for the auto save is on, which means it's connected. You can see that they've got little people over here, showing it's connected to other people, and then you have you have your name logged in over here. So if you have your name logged in over here and everything else is good, you should be good to go. That being said, alright, so now we got this open to the Desktop app, and we've got this shared on OneDrive. Next up is we have to make sure we have good grid lines, because if we're going to make motion in here, we need to be able to see kind of what we're doing, and honestly, not a huge fan of this, but it's just what it is. Alright, so come up here, let's see, I think it is in, actually it is right here in view. So up on these tabs, you'll get used to these things. Come over to view, you're going to turn the grid lines on, which they start to display and populate. You turn the guide on, And if you just click over here in the main field, hit Control and scroll out, you can kind of see that we've got more grid lines going, and now down in the corner you can also, scroll out like this. So getting used to where your tools are and how you use them is incredibly important. All right, cool. So getting into the animations pane. So I've got the animations pane up here. I'm going to close it down so you can see how we get in there. So what I have over here is a couple of different items, and every different item, everything in a box, everything I can click on, can be animated. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on box. I'm going to go up to animations up here, and then I'm going to come over to the animation pane right there. And then I'll actually open this whole thing up, and you can see I already have some animations in here. So key here is if you're going to go through here and click through and make it play automatically, you're going to have to automate your animations and also animate your your transitions. So I'll show you how to do that as well. So I'll play this from the beginning. You can see.
All right, today we're going to be taking a look at primary, secondary, and tertiary sources, specifically in history, because this is just way too much fun.
And this already animates up. So the way I did that is I'm going to go ahead and just duplicate the slide, come over here, get rid of all this stuff, I'm going to remove this, I'm going to remove this, and remove this. Maybe I just hit the delete button. Sure, hit the delete button. All right, so this is kind of what I start with, basic template, and here's how we do this. So we go animation, because this is fun and I want an animation. The green ones up here, make them appear. You can see the one I used there. The yellow ones, make them do something. Pulse, right? It emphasizes something. Your shrinking flow. We're going to use this one later too. And then you can change the font color, and then you have the the red ones are disappear. So fade out, float out. So what we're going to do is we're just going to make this first one fade in. So we're going to come up here, make sure we're on the right bar, grab this guy, and what we're going to do is we're going to come all the way up, and we want this thing to random bars in. Okay. Now the other thing we're going to do is we're going to adjust the timing here. So we're going to come over here, and we're going to adjust the timing to say with previous. You're like, oh man, there's no previous. Well, yeah, there's no previous, so it's going to start on its own, which means that if we do this, and we start it from the beginning, or if we get into the slide, it'll just start on its own. This piece over here, with previous, duration, and delay, are going to be important. So if we want to take this out to, instead of a half second, 2 seconds, just put a 2 up there, and we get another delay of like maybe 2 seconds. You can see the animation kind of playing out here. You see how it moved over, and we can actually just grab it and adjust it if we want to. So play it from the beginning, and you see it waits here, and then all of a sudden appears. Okay. So that is ultimately the animations pane. And now we're going to record something. So the 2 ways you're going to record things, actually there's tons of ways of recording things. The simplest and probably the lowest quality way, but the fastest way, is to come up here and insert audio and just record audio. And so I'm going to call this something every single time. And if you're going to be working with other people, getting in a good habit of labeling your files, in like slide 1, kind of thing, or introduction slide, is the best way of doing it. So I'm just to say, good morning guys, today we're going to be looking at primary, secondary, and tertiary sources, because this is just so much fun. Okay. Click OK, and what will pop up here is a nothing. Yes, a nothing will pop up. And it might be because I'm using my microphone elsewhere, but we're going to try this one more time and see if it's something I screwed up on. Recorded sound, production. Alright, so I'm going to say good morning, guys. Today we're going to be looking at primary, secondary, and tertiary sources because this is way too much fun. Stop this. I'm going to say OK. We're going to see if this one pops up this time. There we go. Maybe I screwed something up last time. Now, over here in the pane, you can kind of see that we have another thing coming up. Now that means that the 0 means that this will start on like when everything else starts. The 1 means that it'll start after a click. But I don't want to start after a click. I want this thing to play itself. So I'm going to start with previous. I'm going to go ahead and hit play. Guys, today we're going to be looking at primary, secondary, and tertiary sources because this is way too much fun. Okay, so you notice that actually used the same delay as the first one, which is kind of fine, but we're just actually going to move this up because we don't want that delay to happen, and then we're going to have to move this out to where we want the because this is so much fun to play. Guys, today we're going to be looking at primary, secondary, and tertiary sources because this is way too much fun. So about 7.5 seconds is where we brought that. So we're just going to start this at probably like 7 seconds here. Here, play all. Hey guys, today we're going to be looking at primary, secondary, and tertiary sources because this is way too much fun. Alright, so I'm going to adjust this back a little bit. I'm not going to keep playing around with it. I want to show you some other things. So you basically have the basic audio, and then you have primary, secondary, tertiary, and how to align that with the sound. Now, I know that there was some frustration with Beautiful Audio Editor. Totally understand that, but we're going to get back into that because this is actually another great way of doing this. So what I did was I recorded the same thing on Beautiful Audio Editor.
Alright, today we're going to be taking a look at primary, secondary, and tertiary sources, specifically in history, because this is just way too much fun.
Okay, so that was recorded in Beautiful Audio Editor. And the thing I like about it is I can affect the gain, I can affect the volume, I can, get really in there, and I can also start to layer my sounds for each slide. Alright, so I'm going to download that as an MP3, exporting as an MP3 file, and so this is the way of doing it from like slide to slide. So I already call this an intro. I'm going to download this thing, and it's just going to pop into my downloads. So if I come over here and go back to insert audio, and audio from my PC is what I'm going to be looking for. If I go there, and the one I just downloaded was in my downloads, right? So right here, I'm going to insert this. And this is going to be the same thing, but I'm actually going to remove this. I'm going to take this, move it up, and then I'm going to start with previous, listen for it.
Alright, today we're going to be taking a look at primary, secondary, and tertiary sources, specifically in history, because this is just way too much fun.
Alright, so the other way of doing that was just to use Beautiful Audio Editor. The quality of the sound is much better. And if you're worried about making a high quality product, that's kind of how you do it. Alright, so getting out of there and getting into the other piece of it, and just kind of a quick one-off, but an important piece is if the volume is low, you can increase the volume down here. And, well, maybe I start from the beginning, Sure.
Alright, today we're going to be taking a look at primary, secondary, and tertiary sources, specifically in history, because this is just...
And if you have a section of the volume, a section of it that is low, what you can do is actually take this piece, give it a little bump up here, and maybe this part needs to be a little quieter down here, so you can start to, adjust the volume of your, if you want to make a good fade or something like that. You can do that right in Beautiful Audio Editor.
All right, today we're going to be taking a look at primary, secondary, and tertiary sources, specifically in history, because this is just way too much fun.
Okay. So I would highly recommend doing different sounds for every slide. It's just easier to keep track of, and especially if you're working collaboratively, you don't have to talk through the whole thing one time and get it right, and then get all the transitions and timing right. So we have this whole thing, right? And this is the way it looks.
All right, today we're going to be taking a look at primary, secondary, and tertiary sources, specifically in history, because this is just way too much fun.
We actually want to transition this slide after about 10 seconds. So I'm going to come up here to the transition, and I really don't mind what you do. What I will say is transitions in PowerPoint slides get pretty obnoxious pretty fast. So you can try to do one of the transitions. You can have none transition, or you can do like a ripple transition, right? And that'll get you the next slide. So if we come here and we do ripple transition, and then over here in the advanced slide, that doesn't mean better slide. That means like move the slide forward. What we can do is we can say advance the slide not on the mouse click, but actually after 10 seconds. Alright, so I know I put this whole thing together, and let's take a look at it. Alright, let's go ahead and take a look at this guy, and we're going to do that by coming down here, and we can say slideshow, and this will allow us to see what the thing looks like.
All right, today we're going to be taking a look at primary, secondary, and tertiary sources, specifically in history, because this is just way too much fun.
Interesting. So it decided not to transition when I asked it to, probably because I put the transition on the wrong one. Yeah, that's exactly what I did. So try this again. And to be honest with you, yeah, it's a fun and frustrating process at times. Oh, yeah. And hopefully.
All right, today we're going to be taking a look at primary, secondary, and tertiary sources, specifically in history, because this is just way too much fun.
It should be rippling out at some point. There we go. And into this.
All right, today we're going to be taking a look at primary, secondary, and tertiary sources, specifically in history, because this is just way too much fun.
And this is the slide I was looking at, actually. All right, so we get the concept here, and I'm going to go ahead and start showing you how to do the other pieces. They're a little bit more complicated, actually. So if you notice, what will happen here is my next slide, if I start from here, and I don't have these things done yet, I just have them on mouse click. So if I go here, you're going to see the next piece of this is going to be an animation. So if you're doing your little videos on this and the PowerPoints that play themselves, oftentimes this is a really great way of calling attention to something or giving your video more life than if you don't have it like that. And so you have that sort of animation, you have this sort of animation. I'll just kind of go through the ones I'm going to show you. You have this sort of animation. It kind of transfers across there. It kind of pans from left to right. And then the last ones you have are down here, which are these types of animations. we actually zoom in on a piece specifically. So we go here, we're talking about Byzantium and the Ottoman Turks, and make that outline and make it kind of fit in here. So these are all single slides that we're moving, and then you can also just do a zoom in effect, which is nowhere near as cool, but it well, it's not as cool as the zoom in. It's way harder though. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and show you how to do those things. All right, so the first slide was my example slide. So you can see the picture slide here has a motion path, and the motion path is a line. I'm starting here because it's literally the easiest one. So what you want to do is, first off, you see this big yellow box. That's going to be important because I want to be able to see where my slide is, because you can see where my where the overall piece is coming out here. So this is actually the picture I started with, and you can kind of see it based on the grid lines, but my recommendation is don't get too fired up about getting these things where they need to be. Make the box first, so I'm just going to make this guy real small, drag him off to the side, and now what I want to do is I want to make my box around this. So I'm just going to go insert this guy, take it out to here, and I really don't need anything too crazy. I don't want any fill, and I just want a big yellow or red outline. I'm going to do yellow because when I do Teams calls, I'm going to change the weight of it too, so it's like actually large. That goes in red. Now I want to keep the aspect ratio the same, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, and I'm also going to right click, and I want to send this, bring this all the way to the front. Alright, and I'm going to take this guy, and you see how he's behind this? So things are layered on here. You know, ogres have layers, and onions have layers. If I bring this one all the way to the front, I'm not going to be able to see this kind of display bar I had in here. So I'm actually going to send this thing all the way to the back. Now I need to make this large again to the point where I've got the pan effect. And that's kind of where we started, but realistically I'm going to make this thing basically as large as I can and still capture the trebuchet as I would want it in the picture. So I'm going to start with the end in mind. This is what I want for the end of it. I want to make this trebuchet really huge and really bring that to the focus of this. So this is my square. And now I'm just going to do myself a favor, and I'm going to crop the whole thing down. So I'm going to right click again, crop. I'm going to drag it all the way down and then back up to that yellow line. And drag it all the way up and then down to that yellow line. And then I really don't need anything over here. It's not going to hurt it for me to crop this to that point. I'm going to leave a little bit of overlap. And then I really don't want the, that gate in there, right? I'm sorry, not the gate, the little tent. So, yes, I will crop it, and it'll look like this. Alright, now, to animate it. I'm going to use the line tool. I'm going to go back into, select this guy, use the animations, and go all the way down to the line. So the custom path is the one that you saw with the first one. That's definitely the most difficult. The line, interesting. It just decided to put a line in there for me, but that's not where I want the line. I actually want the line to end where it starts. So this is why the grid lines kind of become important. And so you can see that the line here is going to go, let's see, I want it to end there. So I think I start it way out here. And then my end should be way over here. We'll try that. Sure. You play it, see if it. Okay. Okay, so we're starting to get there. So, we actually want to make this way back here. Okay. So you can kind of see where this thing is going to land, where this is going to end up, based on the line I'm putting in here. All right. And then the start point, it's going to be back here a little bit further, not so far out. We're a little ahead of ourselves there. So, honestly, this is just guess and check. And guess and check and guess and check and guess and check. So, bring this all the way out. And bring this all the way. So when I'm done here, we'll show you kind of what that ends up looking like. Yeah, that's funny. It's going the opposite direction of what I wanted. We're gonna flip these. Play there. Okay, so now at least it's going in the right direction. This way out here, and bring this way back here. And continue to do this until we get something that approximates what we want. Okay, so that's getting there. It's not ideal quite yet, but we are certainly getting to the point where we want to be. Alright. So then to make that effect, what we're going to end up doing here is go ahead and get back into this and say the delay and the start time. So we come back here, and we're going to delay this for like maybe a second when we get in here. And then we actually want this to be like a slow effect. So add 10 seconds here. Alright, so let's see how that looks, all told. Oh, that's funny, I didn't automate it. Apologies. Not after a click. We want to do that on its own with the previous. Okay. Let's see how that looks. It looks like we need to do a little bit more adjusting. You can see the panning motion is kind of getting there. Alright. So we have that motion, and we have this next one down here, which is not quite as bad, but you can see I have the rectangles, and then after previous I emphasize it, and I emphasize it, both rectangles, and then I move them. So the way we do this is we duplicate this slide, come in here, and get rid of all this stuff because, well, I have to show you how to do it from the beginning. And honestly, this is way funner to like play around with than to watch me do. But I'll show you how I do this. All right. So here's how we're gonna do this. We're gonna take this whole thing, we're gonna copy it, and we're gonna paste it, and we're gonna put it right on top of itself. So now we have two layers of the same thing. And now what we're going to do is we're going to crop out just to the part that we want, right? So we're going to crop this out, and we're going to do crop, and we're going to say, look, I only want maybe, let's do the island of Crete. So I come down here, and do that, right? So that's the part that we want. And now what we have is a layer of Crete and a layer of not Crete, right? And so now what we're going to do is we're actually going to make another little box. So we're going to insert a box, and you saw me do that last time. And we're just going to make this box over top of that box, and we're just going to make the outline. So no fill, we don't want to see the center of it. We see the outline of it, and we're going to make it, well, let's go purple. And we're going to make it a super thick weight. You know, if we want to really emphasize that there, and then we can even do some of the other, you know, some of the other effects. We can go sketched. We can make it look like this, right? So, first thing we're going to do is we're going to make these two things kind of pop out at the same time. Or we could do what I did, which was animate this first box into a wheel effect. Kind of bring your audience's attention to it. So let's just do that. Let's go after the previous. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take this and this, right? So it's important when you grab the two rectangles, you actually grab them both at the same time. So what we need to do is be able to make both of these grow at the same time. So once we have them both, we're going to emphasize them by using this grow and shrink. Alright, so when you do the grow and shrink, when you do the grow and shrink, you can do, you can come up here and you can actually change kind of the level of it. So what we want to do is we want to go to, double click on it, and we get more effects here. So we're going to we're actually going to make this thing go huge. We go like 400% growth. Yeah. It's at 400. Hit enter. Yes, 400. Okay. Timing, we're going to say with previous, and delay, we're not going to have any delay yet, but, well, let's go, yeah, not going to do any delay yet because we're just experimenting. So it looks like I've got rectangle here, 400%, no delay, duration 2 seconds, let's say duration 5 seconds. Okay, so what's that one look like? Okay, so that's just our one box growing out to 5 seconds and getting pretty huge. Cool. So we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to come in here, we're going to, what do we call this? 400%. 400%. And then timing, we said this was going to be 5 seconds. Okay, so how does this all look together, right? Go ahead, play it from the beginning. Do it all. Alright. So looking pretty good so far. Now we just need to get it to move. So we've got to take these two rectangles here, here and here, and we're going to make sure we add an animation. If we just do an animation over here, it's going to replace our last one. So we're going to add the animation, and we're going to go line again. And this one starts and then it goes. So starts and goes. We want to take this from there to like the center, right? So as it grows, it should be going from point A to point B. Start, end. And then we're going to say duration. Well, it makes sense to leave that at 5 seconds, right? So we're going to call this 5 seconds. Okay. That's fun. So we take this one and put it right on top of this other one. Otherwise, it's going to be bad news for everybody. Alright. And then we're going to start that. We're actually going to do that with the previous. Alright, see how this whole thing looks. Ooh, get that floating effect. Kind of don't hate it. Then we got to paint that wheel at the beginning because, once again, I screwed that up. Look at this this guy right here. It's rectangle 4. We're going to add that animation. and we're going to say wheel. We're going to pull that up towards the beginning here. We're going to say with the previous. And for this, we're going to say after the previous. Alright, so let's take a look at how that animal looks here. So go 5 here. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Alright. So once we get through these, we get through all the transitions, and we add the transition. So we're at an 8 second here. So we got transitions. So add this transition, and after we're just gonna do origami because at this point, yeah, we're gonna go mouse click after 8 seconds. Alright, so hopefully this whole thing was helpful to you, or made sense, and it still works out. And maybe this won't do it after 9 because I think I do the there we go. Alright, that did it on its own. Cool. Alright, so thank you for watching. I think that's pretty much all I can do for today. So you know, don't forget to smash that like button, and you know, everything you need was covered here. So I'm gonna quiet my face.